Bonjour.
Get a lot of that these days, don't you, honey? Well, here we are. It's just after Thanksgiving. It's a beautiful day. It's raining slightly. I was going to ask you, somebody had brought it up somewhere in one of these threads or something, about the clothing that you wore. I mean, actually, you mentioned it yesterday in the Thanksgiving video, the clothing that you guys wore. So could you tell me of some of the special clothing that you guys had?
Yeah, we got stuff made for us from Granny Takes a Trip on Kings Road, and Deborah and Claire. There was these two women that Eric knew that had a shop in Kensington. I believe it was in Kensington.
Was it Camden?
No, but Deborah and Claire, and they did hand painted silk shirts, and that's where the one that Eric gave to Dwayne. That's where that came from.
So did he have them make that specially?
No, it was made, already made, and he bought it along with some other things. You know, I had some of their things as well, but I really liked Granny Takes a Trip. I knew the guys, Gene and Marty, you know, that owned it, and bon vivant, you know.
Bon vivant means the good life.
Oh, that was the one that we were all living, you know. The good life. This is the good life, you know. This one is, but that was the good life for that point in time, you know.
So somebody mentioned the jacket that Eric was wearing on one of the shows. Which jacket was that?
There was I don't know if that's a Cincinnati show or not, but he had like a yellow T-shirt on or something, and but he had a jacket that was plaid, a black and red plaid that was made from the saddle blanket that was Clark Gable's in Gone with the Wind.
So you can see that. Was it a jacket?
Yeah, it was a coat that looked terrible.
On Gone with the Wind? Or
yeah, that was his saddle blanket. The saddle blanket that Clark Gable had for his horse in Gone with the Wind is because Eric got it. I think it was actually Patty got it at a sale. That went like when the MGM sale, and there was a whole lot of stuff that went on auction block.
She mentioned that she liked to go to those kinds of sales.
She did, and I went to several of them with her when she was getting things for Friar Park, and pretty cool. She knows her antiques, you know, that's for sure. That's one thing that I can say about Patty Boyd was that she was really up there in her knowledge of antiquities and fine carpets and paintings. You know, she just had a natural eye or gift for that. You know, something like that you can't learn from a book. You know, it's something that you are born with.
Well, that's good to know.
There's a woman that was I knew in Julia Roberts. In Ireland, who was
not the actress.
No. This lady was she was lovely. I met her in a pub. she was drunk as she could be and couldn't go home, so I drove her home, and we became fast friends.
Wasn't she a cousin to the Queen?
I was getting there. She was one of the Queen's cousins, and her brother, like when his family passed away. I mean, he got like the better part of Wales, you know, and she got nothing, you know, but the boot. But that was good. She was a lot of fun. I don't even know how I veered off.
The art, honey.
You know, but she had an eye for paintings, and she would go to boot sales, and she showed me some of this stuff.
Okay, Americans don't know what boot sales are.
Yeah. Sell out of the trunk, you know, swap meets, but it's a different kind of caliber. It's high caliber swap meets, you know. But and she would buy paintings, high end, and she would buy paintings and sell them for enormous amounts of money because they were incredible paintings by famous artists that were at the time relatively unknown. But she had a really good eye for that. Patty Boyd did too. I got to say. And it kind of opened my interest up because I've always been interested in art, sculpture, anything
Antiques.
that's of that nature. I've
Right.
always been interested in the creative aspect of things, buildings, architecture, bridges. I mean, I did a painting the other day, and I needed these two mountains that go like this, and with this abstract sky, real soft pastel sky. But something was wrong with this thing. And I got to looking at it, and I think it was my glasses went over the top of it, and my frame, I went, a bridge. That's what this needs
That
to
easy,
pull
huh?
this thing together. Yeah. And it was
Glasses
the frame of
thing.
my glasses happened to hit the right light,
I'm
and
laughing.
it tied together these two mountains. But I just didn't jump in and start doing something. I did some research. It had to be a certain image that showed for us structure and all the things that tie things together and hold things up. And I came up with one,
that's good.
from out of another. And when that happened, suddenly this painting came together. And took that little small bridge to bring this massive painting together.
Wonderful.
The smallest thing, can really, it's like this smallest bit of affection goes a long, long way, Love and compassion in small doses, become gallons, and that goes a long way, I don't know how I get drifting from like this. I guess it's in the flow.
You're a drifter, honey.
Yeah, I'm a drifter. I've always been a drifter. And in the flow of the universe, and that's how I became a painter. That's how I became a keyboard player, a singer. I've sang ever since I could walk. I've always sang.
When you moved to England, you essentially didn't know you were moving there, but when you ended up staying,
I just stayed.
Right. Well,
Went to visit and
apparently,
stayed.
certain people had a big influence on you in so far as how you dress and
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
thought about, because you never thought about those things prior to going to.
Well, I did, but I couldn't afford what my eye, because R&B is all about looking good. I mean, like Four Tops, everybody's matching, everybody's styling, So when you're hanging around, that's some collars, and some with the Nehru, it's like so. But I had to save up to go down to Lansky Brothers, and saving up back in those days meant a pretty good while of saving up just to get a Nehru coat, with a little slide tie. I did, and I was the only other white person except for Elvis that I knew would shop at Mr. Lansky's place. But
Right.
I still shop at Lansky's. I got over a dozen Lansky Brothers shirts in my closet right now. And this goes out for you, Hal Lansky.
Had you dressing fine. So some of the other clothes that you and Eric would swap clothes. Did you swap
Yeah.
clothes with the other guys or just primarily Eric?
No, hell no. Carl always dressed like he got dressed in the dark, and Jim Gordon didn't have a sense of style whatsoever. This guy come from Hollywood in L.A., and he couldn't get dressed at all. And what he picked out
That
was
wasn't-
terrible. And if you see him in a fringe coat, then that was my jacket that I got from a guy on the street in New York City.
Right, we did that story.
We did that one, yeah. Swapped it off.
What about your shoes? You were talking about you guys had very expensive boots and things like
Very
that.
expensive.
So that was
boots.
you and Eric.
They were lovely, yeah. High heel, stacked high heel boots. English boots couldn't beat them. They were perfect.
You love those English boots.
Oh, I love my English boots. You can't get them in America. They don't make the heel. It has a certain cut to it,
Right.
And it would go back to Dickens
Oops, sorry.
time, that kind of time. But I loved all that flamboyant dressing, No, I mean, I had some clothes made and stuff. Like on my second solo record, Raw Velvet, which was rock and roll one side and ballads on the other side. I had a guy that was my tailor and made looked like an elevator operator's outfit. Had gold chains and stuff. Oh, so tacky, man. From the cotton fields to the lights of London.
So you were going a little crazy having things
Oh,
made.
hell yeah. I had more fun than you can possibly imagine, because I wasn't long from, being a young guy, I mean, I had just come out of my teens with this, I mean, I'm turning my 23rd birthday. My first record had George Harrison and Eric Clapton, Klaus Voormann, and Jim Gordon and me in the studio. And hell, I was 23 years old, and I'd been working the fields until I was, like 13, and been working, doing all sorts of things from there to where I was. So it had, and 7 or 8 years, a lot comes together in that amount of time, and well, at least it did for me. I've never had a lack of anything, never been bored a moment in my whole awakened existence. I have never been bored, ever. There's always something to do, even if it's pondering, your place here. What am I here for, Well, you're sharpening hose today, so you better do a good job. Oh, well, anyway.
What happened to your clothes from those days?
I left them. My first house that I got in England was called White Barn, and it had a bomb shelter on the property just down the hill. Well, we remember the guy that did the train here in Austin. We ran into him one day at our coffee shop, and it turns out that it was his grandfather's house that I had, White Barn, and it burned down.
I mean, it got a fire caught.
I didn't have anything to do with the fire. It was faulty wiring, very, very old place, But they had a bomb shelter. Well, when the place burned down, well, we just moved out. My girlfriend and myself just moved to Fire Park, George and Patty's place, and I didn't even go in to get clothes or anything. 'Cause I dated Patty's sister, Paula.
Right.
And Will John's mother, as a matter of fact.
Right.
Yeah, he's a guitar player. But all of my shirts were left at the house. When I left, I just left with the clothes on my back, got my red Ferrari, and went out to Friar Park. I bought more clothes. Didn't even bother to go back to get my clothes. I didn't care about them. I figured they all went up in smoke. Flames were coming out the window the last time I saw it, but it didn't get that far. It only just got to the, couple of the rooms, and they put it all out. And all of my clothes were still there. Well, they stored them in the bomb shelter. And the guy that was in town, a couple of years ago, we met him, I said, well, what happened to the clothes? And he said, oh, we used to play in those things all the time. We pretended to be rock stars and everything. We were wearing your clothes. Yeah, but they had a whole load of from Granny Takes a Trip. Beautiful silk shirts and velvet pants.
I wonder were your photographs in all that mess? The photographs you took?
There was, Ron Nevison sent a photo the other day of he and I and Paula at White Barn, at the back door of White Barn. Now, funnily enough, he sent that to me, and Ron worked for the Dominoes, and he became a famous record producer, produced Heart and Bad Company and
Joe Cocker.
And a
bunch of people, yeah.
But anyway, yeah. Boy, I wish I could tell it all, I would. I will one of these days, It's, small doses, because that's how it was all lived. That's how it all went down in small doses, but it seemed like it was all at once, I did things like there. When I lived there, I decided I wanted a Cartier watch, you know. And so I called Cartier in London and had them bring a guy out with a suitcase full of watches to sell me without having to go to London.
So he comes to your house and flips open a case.
Yeah, and they had all these watches, Rolexes.
Sounds like James Bond.
Oh, it was fantastic. And one of them didn't suit me. You know, he went away. I gave him the money, cash right there. He went away. He went back to London, and I said, this looks a little too much like a businessman. Got the little jewel on it. I said, come on back out here and get this thing, you know. So they loaded up and brought me some more stuff to look for. I was always utilizing my position to do whatever I wanted to do, you know, and it was ridiculous things like that, you know, going shopping, having them bring it to you. Now that's what we're doing today. You know, they bring it all to us today because of this pandemic.
Yeah.
So I was in sort of like a pandemic then, but
They probably preferred to bring it to you than have you come to the shop.
yeah. Well, I always had, but I was always looking good. I always had a lot of fun. I always still like to look good and have fun, and that's what life is about.
Well, I imagine you
really
got
is.
that through seeing other people doing that.
Well, you know, when you're not, I know the other side of the coin. All right, I know that dark, not so shiny side or clean side of the coin. I live that side, you know. I was born and grew up in that side. I come from moonshiners and hookers, you know, river rats. I come from salt of the earth, you know. Matter of fact, they were the earth, and they were wonderful people, you know. I come from have an interesting background, and my family tree, you know, didn't grow very tall. About like that, but it was like that. Full of big people, you know. Oh, we're big boned, you know. No, that's all that grease and stuff you eating. Fat back and stuff like that. But anyway, going from one side of that, you know, and the life that I grew up to the life that I led and the life I lead today is pretty remarkable.
I'm sure like anybody else, you took full advantage of all those wonderful things that you could do, you know, like have the Cartier people come to your home.
Yeah. But I mean, I didn't get that out of a book. You know, that idea just came to me.
Oh, really?
You know, I was having a tough time getting around. But I did this, and I still do it to this day if I'm in London and I need to go somewhere and get there in a hurry, and I'm driving a rental car, you know, or like I had my own cars then. But I would hail a cab.
Snap, did you hear that snap?
Yeah, I'd get a cab and say, I need to go to some Portobello Road, and here's like 10 pounds, and I'm right on behind you, all right? He said, no problem. So I just get a cab, and then I learned my way around London. I can get all over London now. But I learned my way around London just following the cab. Just getting part of his fare, not all of his fare, you know.
Well, that's a smart thing to do.
Yeah, it works today, you know. It beats waiting on them or getting lost, you know.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
It's difficult to get around in London.
Unless you're me.
Unless you're me.
You got to pick the right kind of time to get out. Because I was out and about, you know, like from 10 to 3 in the morning, you know, just tearing up the road and having a hell of a time.
You and Keith Moon.
Me and Keith Moon, and just having a ball, you know, living life to the hilt. Forget the envelope, on the edge of the envelope, no, well over the edge, you know. But I'm here with to tell the tale, you know. It's a lot of fun. It's an interesting tale. It's real interesting being me. Even to this day, it's incredible what has happened to me. You know, I'm truly blessed, I know.